slight continuity error here. As you can see, the scenery has changed, I have changed, with 5 minutes, well, I haven't changed, I've changed clothes. 5 minutes left of the Raven lecture. Sorry, let's pretend that never happened. SD card ran out of space. So, we were in the final 3 stanzas of the Raven, and it's the climax, which is why I'm kind of annoyed that I filled up my SD card. We've just had our speaker call the Raven prophet and a thing of evil, 4 stanzas from the close, and the Raven says nevermore, of course, because that's all the Raven can say, to the question of, is there balm in Gilead? You know, is there a way past this suffering that the main character feels, and is there some way to know that his love is alright? So, why does Edgar Allan Poe repeat the stanza again? So this is 3 stanzas from the end now. It's not necessarily an easy question to answer, but I think in some ways the key lies right from the start of the poem when I argue that this is a psychological horror poem, and that the speaker is creating the conditions for his horror himself. I mean, from an intellectual standpoint is why I love the poem, as well as its sort of gothic overtones. So what I mean by that is, having him return to this insult, prophet, thing of evil, is in some ways indicative just of the fact that he's about to return to the very question that got him the answer he didn't want to hear. So he asked, is there balm in Gilead? And then 3 stanzas from the end, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aiden it shall clasp a sainted maiden whom the angels name Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore. Quoth the Raven, nevermore. So our speaker asks the same question again. He asks, is there balm in Gilead? Previous stanza, and now he asks, tell this soul if it shall clasp Lenore. So what does he expect the answer to be? But it doesn't matter, he's not thinking logically, right? He's in distress, he's in great emotional turmoil and sorrow. So he's decided that the Raven bears some kind of forgotten lore, some kind of power, even if he's a devil, some kind of otherworldly knowledge. And he's going to find out what it is. But the Raven refuses, because it's all the Raven can do. And that is what finally drives our hero over the edge. In part, I suspect, because this is the realization, finally. He realizes there is no way to get his love back. There is no hope that he's going to get either from the mortal or the immortal realm. So, the penultimate stanza, be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting, get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore, leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken, leave my loneliness unbroken, quit the bust above my door, take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the Raven, nevermore. It's a great penultimate stanza, but there are 2 readings that I think can be sustained simultaneously. The first is the apparent one. Our speaker is in denial. Denial of the message he thinks he's hearing from the Raven, that there is no hope for his love, and the Raven refuses to leave. But the second reading is, look at the requests that the speaker makes. He tells the Raven to leave, and he says, but then he qualifies this leaving. He doesn't just want the Raven to leave, he wants the Raven to quit the bust above my door, so quit the bust of Pallas, quit this association with wisdom, which the speaker made, not the raven. Take thy beak from out my heart, so take your sort of pointy, stabbing influence out of my heart. And finally, take thy form from off my door. So obviously the form refers to like the physical appearance, so take this sort of physical manifestation of yourself from off above my door. So the speaker wants 4 things. My tablet doesn't go to sleep. The speaker wants 4 things. Get the hell out. Quit the association with wisdom. Stop torturing my heart. And take thy physical form away from above my door. The problem is that the raven can do none of those things except leave. And of course, you try giving orders to a bird. It's not going to go very well. The raven cannot quit the bust above my door. The raven can't quit the association with Pallas because the speaker made that association in the first place. Only the speaker can decouple the raven from wisdom. Also, the raven cannot take its beak from out of the speaker's heart because, again, the speaker made that association. All that's happened is a bird has walked in. After he opened the window, he gave the opportunity for the raven to come in. All that's happened is the raven has walked in, sat on top of something in his room, and said nevermore a lot. And it's the speaker that has made all of the associations with that word nevermore, and is, frankly, irresolvable at this stage, at least, inner turmoil. And finally, take thy form from off my door. That's potentially the most interesting one. And for an answer to that, we have to go to the final stanza. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming. And the lamplight o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul, from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor, shall be lifted nevermore. So remember that ember, the dying ember at the start of the poem, that throws its shadow as it's dying? Well, here the lamplight throws the light over the raven and creates the raven's shadow, and the speaker's soul is trapped within that shadow on the floor, so in a brilliant echo of the ember. So again, it's the raven's form that's creating that shadow that is now capturing our catatonic speaker within it. But the raven can't really take its form from off the top of the door. I mean, it can just leave. But that's not really the point. The point is that it's the form of the raven casting the shadow that's creating a figurative kind of imprisonment. Not a literal imprisonment, but the shadow is figurative. The shadow is representative of the awful shadow on the speaker's heart that has been caused by his loss, but that he is also causing. So his soul is trapped in this limbo, this nightmarish space, and the raven can't rescue him. So that's Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. Awesome. On Wednesday we will do Sigmund Freud's The Uncanny. Thanks.